Change happens all the time.
You are Locked On Trojans, your daily podcast on the USC Trojans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Fight on, everyone. I'm your host, Mark Holkin, and thank you for making Locked On USC, part of the Locked On Network, your first listen every day, whether you're watching this show on YouTube. Wherever you want to download your podcast, this show is always free, and this show will always appreciate your support. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. It is the first recruiting weekend, and it's here, by the way, and things have already changed. Yeah, told you, we use the F word a lot when it comes to recruiting around USC. F word stands for fluid. And that's why I'm going to update you on what's going on. I've been keeping you updated, but again, things change. Here you go. So, headlining the first official visit weekend is four-star safety. He's from Jacksonville, Florida. He's been committed since March when he did that crawfish boil. That's Drake Hilton Stubbs. So he's arriving, and he'll be here hanging out. But guess what? He is not the only safety. He actually has some competition, a couple of them. The most recent addition, and this is a late addition, kind of new to the party. Safety from Shaker Heights, Ohio. That's Ohio State Buckeye country. His name is Trey McNutt. He's a 5-star safety. He's also a Buckeye legacy. His father, Richard McNutt, won a national championship with the 2002 team. He was also a 3-year letterman with the Buckeyes. So last month, Trey narrowed his list of top schools down to 8: Florida, Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State, Oregon, Tennessee, USC, and Texas A&M. And then he's 6'8". He's 6 foot, 180 pounds, and he's considered the number 22 overall prospect in the On3 industry rankings. Really good player. And this is probably I think this is going to come down to a USC Ohio State battle in the end. But again, this is in the Buckeyes' backyard. This will be a tough pull. And again, his father also played there. So we'll see what happens. But there's some positive feelings around USC that they're in this. And again, why bother taking an official visit if you're not interested, right? In case you missed it on here, I mentioned it on a previous episode of Locked on USC. 4-star linebacker Nathaniel Owusu Boateng, IMG Academy. He is also a late addition to this week. And I mentioned it, I think, at the beginning of this week. When he announced his list of official visits, it was originally this weekend was scheduled for South Carolina. And then Stanford was next week, the weekend of June 7th, Georgia, June 14th. But he told On3, I'm now visiting USC on May 31st, Notre Dame on June 7th, Ohio State June 14th, and Michigan on the 21st. So again, things change, not just with USC. When it comes to recruiting, things are always changing. Here's another couple of late add-ons to this weekend. We know USC is always looking to bring in offensive linemen. In the transfer portal, they were looking specifically for offensive tackles. Didn't get any. However, this weekend they have a 4-star offensive lineman. His name is Aaron Dunn. He's from Spanish Fork, Utah. He's 6'7.5", 290 pounds. And again, he's an offensive tackle. They're also bringing in 4-star interior offensive lineman. He's from Bishop Gorman. That's in Las Vegas, Nevada. His last name is pronounced Kalani Uvalu. First name, I apologize in advance, Alai. So hopefully I got that right. So he will also be at USC this weekend. Hopefully Josh Henson can convince him that he should be a Trojan in his future. We also have the 4-star wide receiver from Georgia, C.J. Wiley. I want to remind everybody again, this is Georgia's #1 wide receiver target for their class 2025. And I also want to remind everybody, and just in case CJ Wiley's listening, or maybe somebody who knows CJ Wiley, let him know that the Bulldogs have not had a 1,000-yard wide receiver since 2002. That would be well before CJ was born. Maybe he's going to be the next one. I think he probably has a better chance at USC with their quarterbacks. You also have a 4-star tight end, Nick Townsend, Spring, Texas. Alabama and USC are, I would say, considered the early favorites for him. In the wide receivers, you got 4-star Emmanuel Choice, Lancaster, Texas. I told you earlier, I believe that's going to be a battle between Nebraska and Oklahoma. We'll see. I can see this one going well for USC. Wide receiver, 4-star from IMG Academy, Donovan Olabode. He's from Manassas, Virginia. And then you also have 4-star wide receiver Tanuk Hines from Dekaney, Texas. I think he's a Baylor lean. And then I mentioned earlier, you got a couple safeties. Well, the other safety coming this weekend, 5-star Jonah Williams from Galveston, Texas. So that's who's scheduled to be around the USC campus this weekend. Now, he will not be at USC for this official visit. However, Juju Lewis will be back at USC in 2 weeks. And he spoke at the recent On3 Elite event. This was back in Nashville, Tennessee. On3 was hosting an event for their elite top guys, their top 50 guys. And it was essentially a seminar on NIL and trying to educate them, help them out, what to look for, red flags and how to protect yourself, that type of stuff. Anyways, he spoke at the event, and he actually spoke with WeAreSC.com's Scott Schrader. And he said some things that have some Trojan fans, I think, feeling a lot more confident about his commitment sticking. So despite Juju taking official visits before USC's and taking official visits after he takes his to USC, I think people just need to really understand he's enjoying the process as well as he should. And during this process, he's been able to buy a couple of cars, one for himself. He also bought his dad a car. That's what happens with NIL when you're considered the top quarterback or one of the top quarterbacks in your class. There's certain advantages you have, and you're going to take advantage of those. Money is life. And he talked about that. He also said that when he and Coach Riley communicate, which is regularly, often, Coach Riley will drop some wide receiver names on him that he'd like Juju to start recruiting, kind of lean on a little bit, to consider being a Trojan. Juju said, I communicate pretty often in terms of receivers. I try to talk to them pretty consistently and as much as I can. When Coach Riley gives me a guy or when I see somebody I like, I'm pretty much shooting my shot. I mean, I've got a lot of phone numbers in my phone. I'm not going to really say the names, but I've gotten a couple of kids pretty much locked in right now. Right now, Juju Lewis is locked in, and he's locked on with the USC. So whoever those wide receivers are, they want to play with Juju. And here's something else. He's also pretty influential with a couple of the 2026 guys who actually play on the defensive side of the ball. You might have heard these names before. Jakeem Stewart, defensive lineman, the #1 overall player in the class of 2026. For now, he might reclassify. And then also Bryce Perry Wright, another defensive lineman. So we'll see what happens. As long as Juju is committed to USC, they're in it for those guys and for a lot of other guys as well. So this whole show is going to be centered and focused around change. We talked about some of the changes coming this weekend for official visits. There's some other things that are going on this offseason. And I don't believe for a second the USC tried to change its out-of-conference schedule. We're going to talk about that next. I remember being a big-time Laker fan, going to the playoffs back when the Lakers were playing at the Great Western Forum. That's when Magic Johnson was doing his thing. At Staples Center when Kobe was running the shop. Well, I'll tell you what, if your team is still alive in the playoffs, then with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their best price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. See the view from your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. And with all-in prices, they're gonna show you your total up front. That way, you know what you're getting. You know that you're getting a great deal before you check out, and you can buy your tickets in seconds. 2 taps and you're done. Trojan fans, reminder: get your tickets for that game in Las Vegas. It's still happening. Game Time has tickets on deals right up to the start of the event and even an hour after it starts. It's the place to find last-minute seats. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKED like David, O, and like Nancy for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Everybody's yelling and screaming at you. Make the switch to Locked On Sports today. It's a free 24/7 sports streaming channel, and it's programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news, and it's streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I do not believe for a second the story that was published in that SE-centric online blog called Saturdays Down South. This multiple-sourced story said, USC wanted no part in playing against LSU in the Las Vegas Classic. Yeah. You believe that? I don't. According to Matt Hayes, who, by the way, is a complete SEC honk, USC, for nearly the last 2 years, has tried to find a way out of the contract to play LSU in the Las Vegas Classic because Trojans head coach Lincoln Riley didn't want the game, multiple sources told Saturday Down South. Well, I don't believe that. I put a request into the USC Sports Information Department for a comment. I still haven't heard back. I doubt I will. They usually don't respond to these types of things. However, allegedly, according to Matt Hayes, at one point, Fox Sports had to get involved and try to further the process. The network wasn't enamored with the idea of USC's first game as a member of the Big Ten Conference, the big conference, big broadcast on their rival, ABC ESPN. Quote, they weren't getting out of the game, a source told Saturday Down South, end quote. Here's why I call this whole narrative, it's contrived, it's made up news for the offseason. It's BS. And let's just set aside the fact that USC has never shied away from playing anyone, any place, anytime. First of all, USC's game against Michigan, that's week 4 of the season, especially if we're using the week 0 calendar. So I'm sorry. The whole notion that Fox got all uppity because USC was playing its first game against LSU on ABC ESPN, that doesn't make any sense. If Fox wanted to have the USC-Michigan game, they would have the USC-Michigan game, regardless of who USC is playing week 1 and what channel. I mean, look, if we're being honest, had this been going on behind the scenes for the last 2 years, somebody would have leaked the news. They wouldn't have waited until the game was a couple of months away. It's not how this stuff works. Someone from Coach Riley's camp would have gotten the word out if he truly did not want this game being played. It would have happened. Excuse me. There is enough of a buffer zone between USC's game against LSU and that matchup against Michigan in Ann Arbor that if Fox wanted the game, they would have taken it. Not to mention the game against Michigan. It's going to be on CBS, the other major TV partner for the big conference. Yeah, Fox and CBS are paying big money. This is why USC made the switch from the Pac-12 for the bigger TV contract. So let's not try and pretend that all of a sudden CBS is some minor network, okay? I mean, they were doing the SEC game of the week at 12:30, middle of the day, opposite of Fox and ESPN for, I don't know, forever, including last year. Okay, number one, USC does not avoid playing teams, playing tough games. It's just not part of their DNA. And number two, they're not going to walk away from a guaranteed $5 million payout. Sorry, not happening. Not when you have to start paying recruits to visit. Not when you've got NIL. Not when you're getting ready to pay students directly by the university. Yeah, all forms of cash are welcome. And so, look, I get the other notion that USC's schedule is tough enough, but here's where I stand. And I think, you know, the whole fight on motto means taking the path of least resistance. It's kind of like for losers. Fight on means you tackle anything that's in front of you. You don't look for the easy way out. This game was scheduled before Coach Riley was brought on staff, before Jen Cohn was hired as the athletic director. Look, if Lincoln Riley did not want this game, he would have made it a requirement before he took the job. Get rid of the game. USC knew they were going to the big conference before Lincoln Riley took the job. So I'm not buying any of this BS. I'm sorry, I'm not. I hate multiple sources. And then it just goes off on this could be, if, might. It's just, go read the story online. It's vague. It's crap. It's off-season clickbait. Look, this game doesn't need any extra build-up. So I'm not sure why this is being brought up a few months before the game is being played. Let me guess. The same author, I guarantee it. Should we start anticipating around this time next year that Matt Hayes is going to say, you know what? Coach Riley doesn't want Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss coming to LA this year, and they don't want to make the return trip to Oxford, Mississippi in 2026. Does anybody really believe that? I mean, seriously. Oh, by the way, USC has Notre Dame on their schedule this year as well, out of conference. Sandwich in between LSU and Notre Dame. They're going to slide Utah State in there. I don't care that USC and the Big play 9 conference games. Everybody's going to be playing 9 conference games, including the SEC. And their fans aren't going to want to watch Alabama or Georgia play, I don't know, the Citadel. It's a waste of money. It's a waste of time. So don't give me this shinola that USC was trying to get out of playing LSU. No, don't agree. Don't believe it. I think it's hogwash. I'll tell you what. If it smells like a corn dog, it probably is a corn dog. I like corn dogs. And I cannot wait for that game against LSU. And I really hope this is bulletin board material. Think I'm fired up now? Wait till my Friday rant. Hey, guess what? It's Friday. Time for my Friday rant. This one is directed at someone that I every now and then I'll listen to, not regularly. Colin Cowherd, you need to shut up. Yeah, I think he knows that he's full of crap. But he found another hot button topic for the offseason. He actually thinks that the annual USC Notre Dame game should be mothballed. Get rid of it. Get it off the schedule. USC doesn't need it. Notre Dame needs USC. USC has plenty of marquee games being in the big conference. They don't need Notre Dame anymore. Notre Dame's independent. They need USC. And he builds his argument around some random psychological research study with regards to fear. And the conclusion was that something like 80 to 85% of what people feared never really materializes. First of all, this isn't some irrational fear that if USC and Notre Dame stop playing college football, it's going to be that college football will be forever scarred and ruined. The NCAA, NIL, schools directly paying players, that'll take care of that over time. That will ruin the college football game. He used some weird analogy that stupid people are afraid to get on an elevator for the fear of suffocating. It's, again, just a really dumb analogy that this random study was using. Then he started talking about how the NFL ratings have been growing, and saying people were saying, "Oh, the NFL's taking away hitting; they're protecting the quarterback." And they said, "Well, look at the NFL ratings; they're growing. It's growing because they've got a great marketing plan. It has nothing to do with them trying to protect the quarterback." So no, Colin, blowhard. The NBA in-season tournament that you also talked about, it turned people off. In fact, it turned me off. I stopped watching the game. The NBA added the in-season tournament because folks don't like the product. That's why they had to do it. Colin said, "Well, was the championship game in the in-season tournament? It was the highest rated game in 6 years." Whoop-de freaking do. You know why? Maybe if the product wasn't so bad, people wouldn't have to give a crap about, some contrived in-season tournament. Ooh, Lakers got a trophy. Who cares? I remember when the Lakers versus Celtics on Christmas Day or on Valentine's Day, that was must-watch TV. They don't tune in anymore because the product sucks. It has nothing to do with fear. Colin likes to think that he has his finger on the pulse of what's going on. I'm telling you right now, he doesn't. He lives in a little echo chamber. He then started to go into his defend the Pac-12 diatribe. And guess what his argument was? Yeah, ratings. He was happy to see the Pac-12 blow up. And why were the ratings bad? Because of the poor product. And that's why it was okay for the conference that he grew up with falling apart. And he said, look, USC is not going to be playing those other schools. Now USC and UCLA and Oregon and Washington, they get to play Michigan and Ohio State and Penn State and Iowa, the other big brands. He started going down the path to that, the playoffs are too hard when USC is playing the top brand names in the conference. USC doesn't need to make it more difficult. But then he wrote a check that his mouth couldn't cash. This is why I'm telling you, I think he was just talking because I don't really think he thought this one out. He said, and then USC has to travel to South Bend in November. Jeez, Colin, when was the last time USC played Notre Dame in South Bend in November? Yeah, it's been a long, long, long time. Probably well before you were born. It's not just NIL, the NCAA, and schools hiring teenage football players that's going to kill college football. It will be, I was going to use a different word. It's going to be dummies like Colin who want to strip away even more tradition. And what makes these rivalries so special. This isn't an irrational fear. It's called appreciating tradition and not needing some hyperbolic schedule scenario to try and make some asinine point because it's the off season and you want people talking about you. I'm sorry. USC is not going to be playing Ohio State and Michigan and Notre Dame in any type of scenario in November when it's 11 degrees or minus 9 degrees outside. Look at their schedule this year, Colin. The last time USC travels east is when they play Maryland, the middle of October. That's usually the weekend that USC is traveling to Notre Dame. I'm not saying that USC will not be playing a game in Happy Valley in November or in Ohio State or Michigan at some point in the future. But I promise you it will not be on back-to-back weekends after they're playing Notre Dame in November. Ay, ay, ay. So I'll tell you what, Colin, if you hear this, let's talk at the next USC practice that you decide to saunter into when you're wearing your flip-flops, acting like your dirty underwear doesn't stink. And one more thing, you're tone deaf. During the end of his little soliloquy, kind of like where I'm at right now, he was talking about what I like and what you need. He was saying, I can talk about what I like and what you need. Like he said, I like a Maserati and I like a mansion, but you don't need them. Okay, hypocrite. Tell everyone where you live. Tell everyone what you drive. Yeah, I know where you live. I know what you drive. You don't need where you live, and you definitely don't need what you're driving. But you do. All right. I'm done ranting. I'm out of here. I'll be back next week with another 5 episodes of Locked on USC. I might have some recruiting updates from the official visits. We'll see what kind of news breaks. But I guarantee you I'll be coming back next week with some more episodes. More news on USC. That's why you're here. You like the show. You like what you're getting. I want this show to continue to grow, and I can't do that without your help. If you're watching the show on YouTube, become a subscriber. Smash that thumbs up button, and don't forget to hit that bell notification button. That way you don't miss an episode. So until then, everyone, enjoy your weekend, and you know what to do.